So what if I told you there's one simple, really inexpensive test that can tell you more about your risk for heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and even dementia than almost any other? But here's the crazy part. When you ask your doctor for it, they'll often tell you it's useless. Okay, let's dive into why this one test could be the most important one you ever take. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if the key to predicting your future health, the thing that could give you a 20-year head start on prevention, has been hiding in plain sight this whole time? It's a pretty powerful thought, and it really makes you question the standard checkups we've all come to rely on. And here's the real kicker. The out-of-pocket cost for this potentially life-changing insight, just 25 to 35 bucks. Yeah, for the price of a few fancy coffees, you could get a clear glimpse into your metabolic future. It's just unbelievably accessible. Okay, so this brings us to a major problem. This false sense of security we get from our annual physicals. We see the word normal on the lab report, and we just assume everything's A-okay, but a lot of the time, that's just an illusion. It's a story I hear constantly. For 10, maybe 15 years, every single checkup ends with a pat on the back and a clean bill of health. Then bam, seemingly out of nowhere, you get a diagnosis for type 2 diabetes. And you're just left there wondering, how is this possible? I was perfectly fine last year. The truth is, you weren't, not even close. So check this out. On the left, you've got the standard stuff your doctor checks. Blood glucose, A1C. These are what we call lagging indicators. They only start screaming for help after the damage is already well underway. But on the right, that's what's actually being missed. Fasting insulin. That's the root cause that gives you that incredible 20-year warning. And here's the thing you've got to understand. Your body treats blood glucose as a controlled variable. It will do anything to keep that number stable, kind of like a firefighter desperately trying to contain a blaze. So relying on your glucose level is like waiting for the entire building to be engulfed in flames before you even think about calling for help. The real action, the real story is happening with insulin. And that, of course, leads us right to the main character of our story. Now, while insulin is absolutely essential for life, when it's chronically high, it becomes this hidden destroyer, silently, methodically laying the groundwork for disease. This analogy is just perfect for understanding how we get into this mess. So think of insulin as a key that knocks on your cell's door to deliver fuel. Historically, this happened maybe once or twice a day. But with our modern diets, all the snacks, the sugary drinks, insulin is now knocking 15, even 20 times a day. Your cells, they just get annoyed. They stop answering the door. So what does your body do? It doesn't fix the problem. No, it just starts knocking louder by screaming more and more insulin into your system. And this is where things get really serious. That constantly high level of insulin creates this state of low-grade chronic inflammation. It's kind of like leaving your car engine idling at high RPMs 24/7. This constant internal wear and tear is the foundation for over 90% of the chronic diseases we all fear. We're talking heart disease, cancer, fatty liver disease, even things like PCOS. Let's start with the big one, the #1 killer worldwide, heart disease. Because it turns out, high insulin is a much stronger risk factor for heart disease than cholesterol ever was. High insulin basically attacks your cardiovascular system from 3 different angles. First off, it makes your kidneys hold on to way too much salt and water, which literally drives up your blood pressure. Second, all that chronic inflammation creates chemical friction that scrapes up and damages your blood vessel linings. So your body sends cholesterol to act like a patch, but over time, these patches build up into dangerous plaques. And finally, it makes your blood stickier, more likely to form the clots that cause heart attacks and strokes. Okay, next up. Cancer. The connection between high insulin can become a problem. Then on the other hand, insulin is what's known as a mitogenic hormone. Mito comes from mitosis, which is just cell division. So insulin's job is literally to tell cells to grow and divide. For a cancer cell which has already lost its normal safety brakes, high insulin is like pouring gasoline on a fire. But wait. The damage doesn't stop there. A lot of scientists are now referring to Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes, and for a very good reason. High insulin is absolutely devastating to your brain health. See, just like the other cells in your body, your brain cells can become resistant or deaf to insulin's signal. And what that means is they literally starve to death, even when there's plenty of sugar in your blood. At the exact same time, high insulin also stimulates the production of that infamous beta amyloid protein, the plaque that gums up the works and messes with memory and cognition. Okay, so let's tie all of this together and look at the actual timeline. This is probably the single most important concept to grasp, the 20-year warning sign that standard testing completely, totally misses. Just look at this progression. In year 1, you're in great shape, everything is optimal. But by year 5, just to keep your glucose at a normal 90, your insulin has already more than tripled. By year 15, your glucose is 99, still perfectly fine according to your doctor, but your insulin is at 20, screaming for help. You've just spent 2 decades developing severe insulin resistance, and your doctor sees nothing wrong until year 20, when the whole system finally crashes and your glucose spikes. You've lost 20 years. 20 years you could have used for prevention. All right, I know that was a lot of doom and gloom, but the good news, the really good news, is that this is not a death sentence. Not at all. Once you know what to look for, you can absolutely take back control of your metabolic health. First things first, you have to know what you're aiming for. While a standard lab report might say anything up to 25 is normal, that is a dangerously, dangerously wide range. The optimal, healthy range for fasting insulin is actually between 2 and 5. Tragically, something like 70 to 80% of adults in the US are already above this ideal level. So how do we get there? Well, the solution is actually super logical when you think about it. If the problem is constant insulin spikes, the answer is to give your body a break. Intermittent fasting does exactly that. It creates these windows of time where your insulin can finally drop, allowing your body to switch from storing fat to actually burning it. And if the problem is too much sugar and carbs driving up insulin, well, the solution is a low-carb diet that dramatically reduces the need for insulin in the first place. This is how you break the cycle. By lowering insulin, you finally unlock those fat stores and let your body use them for energy. So, here's what you can do. It's a simple 3-step action plan. Number 1, request the fasting insulin test from your doctor. If they refuse, don't argue. You can order it yourself at a walk-in lab. It's your health, and you absolutely have a right to this information. And number 3, know your goal. You're not just aiming for not diabetic. You are aiming for optimal health, and that means getting that result somewhere between 2 and 5. So at the end of the day, it really just comes down to this one question. Your blood glucose? That tells you a story about what you ate yesterday. Your fasting insulin? That tells you a story about where your health is headed for the next